welcome to Let's Get Teddy to Rumble, and we are interviewing Marek Brave. And introduce yourself.
Hi, Teddy. My name's Marek Brave. I've been a professional wrestler for almost 20 years, and I am the co-owner of the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy with my buddy Seth Rollins.
Do you still wrestle?
I wrestle occasionally. I haven't wrestled in a handful of months. I have a broken back right now. Can you believe that? I have a broken vertebrae in my lower back. And I've always had, not always, but for the last 16 years, I've had spine issues because I had a neck injury when I was a little bit younger. So it doesn't allow me to wrestle as often as I'd like. I'd love to wrestle every weekend, like a lot of these guys and girls do now. But a handful of times a year because it's addicting. Wrestling's really fun, so it's hard to give it up. So I still wrestle sometimes, just not recently, but I'm not done yet.
Yesterday, I lost a tooth this morning because I was wiggling it, and then it magically fell out.
Wow, so you're probably going to get a visit from the tooth fairy here soon, huh?
Uh, I got $5 from it today.
$5. Inflation is crazy. I used to get 25 cents per tooth back when I was a little kid.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Wow. What are you going to buy with your $5?
Well, I have more than $5 for my other loose teeth, and I have way more money than I usually get money.
Yeah. Are you saving
So
up for college? You pay your tuition with that tooth money?
I'm saving it.
Oh, yeah. That's good. That's smart.
Braxton said for me to say to you. He said something about whenever you retire or something like that, I'll beat you up.
Oh, you're going to beat me up?
No,
You, Ted?
Braxton.
Oh,
Braxton.
Braxton's going to beat me up?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, he's beat me up a couple times, but I beat him up more times than that.
How did you get into pro wrestling when you were a kid?
Well, when I was a little kid, I had a next door neighbor who was a really good friend of mine, and we were jumping on the trampoline one day, and he said, "Hey, let's play wrestling." I didn't know what wrestling was, but I wanted to play with my friends, so I said, "I'll give it a shot." And he goes, "Okay, I'll be Shawn Michaels, and you can be the Undertaker." And I didn't know what an Undertaker was. I didn't know that was a real job that people had in real life. And so I just pictured this guy that was like a deep sea diver with like a big glass helmet on with tubes going everywhere. Because to me, that's what Undertaker sounded like somebody who was under the water, maybe. And so we did that for a little while. And then he's like, "Hey, come over to my house and I'll show you some wrestling tapes." So I went to his house and he popped in some VHS tapes because there wasn't even DVD back when I was a little kid. Um, and we watched wrestling and I was like, "Wow, this is really cool. I like it a lot." And from that day forward, I was kind of obsessed with it. And I was always a wrestling fan after that. My fandom never wavered.
When did you decide to be a pro wrestler?
Well, I became a professional wrestler when I was a senior in high school. So I was still going to school when I started wrestling on shows in front of an audience, in front of fans. But after I graduated high school, I decided to go away to Chicago with my buddy Seth Rollins, who was known as Tyler Black at that time when he was just wrestling on the independent level. We decided to go to Chicago and learn how to be professional wrestlers from a reputable trainer. His name is Danny Daniels, and he runs a big promotion in Chicago now called AAW. Anyways, we learned how to be pro wrestlers from him in October of 2004. We trained October, November, and December 2004, and then we started wrestling all around the country after that instead of just here in the Quad Cities. So I had my first match ever in August 2003, but my first trained professional wrestling match, graduated the school, certificate, diploma, all that in December of 2004. So again, almost 20 years.
What's your favorite match have you ever wrestled in?
Do you know a wrestler? He wrestles on TV. He goes by the name Claudio Castagnoli. He wrestled in WWE as Cesaro. Do you know who
Yeah, I
Cesaro
know him.
is?
He's in AW, I think.
Yep, he's in AEW now.
John Moxley.
I think he's the Ring of Honor champion. Anyways, I wrestled him a number of times when we were both younger, and we had a really fun match for a company called IWA Mid South. Gosh, I don't even know what it might have been 2005, 2006. And it was a really good match. We were both really proud of it. And after we got to the locker room after it was over, the promoter pulled us aside in front of the whole locker room and said, "That's how you guys tell a story. That's how you have a really good wrestling match." And he basically praised us in front of the whole locker room. So I always go back to that one as probably my favorite match that I ever did, even though it wasn't for like a big company or in front of thousands and thousands of people. It just felt nice to know that I went out there with a friend of mine and put on a really good performance and that the owner of the company agreed.
You are really interesting.
Oh, thanks, Teddy. Thanks, Teddy. I do some podcasting myself, but the podcast I do, we talk about the Miami Dolphins football team because I like football as much as people who are watching this probably like wrestling.
If you saw my picture, then if you see, I got a picture with Seth Rollins and a toy of him in the same pants.
Oh, cool. I think I saw that picture of you and Seth Rollins actually. What'd you think? Is he a
Monday
nice
Night
guy?
Raw.
Do you think he's a nice guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. I like him. He's my good friend and my business partner. We've known each other for 21 years now. Can you believe that? That feels that feels like a long time, but I didn't realize I was getting this old, but apparently I am.
Do you still come to Iowa?
Do I live in Iowa right
I
now?
mean, Seth Rollins.
Yeah, he lives in Iowa too. He splits time between Iowa and Los Angeles, where his wife Becky Lynch has a home. So they have two homes, and sometimes they're in Los Angeles and sometimes they're in Iowa. But he loves Iowa a whole lot, so he's not going to leave us. He likes being here. Plus, we run the wrestling school together, so he comes to town almost every week and helps me train future professional wrestlers.
Who was your favorite wrestler when you were a kid?
My favorite wrestler when I was a kid and still to this day is Shawn Michaels. You ever watch any Shawn Michaels matches? He hasn't wrestled in a long time, but he was really, really good when I was a kid and when I was an adult too. He's just one of, in my opinion, the best professional wrestler of all time. I think you might like him. You should hop on Peacock and check out some older Shawn Michaels matches.
Did you see the one with him and Psycho Sid?
Oh yeah, I've seen all of them, man. He's my favorite wrestler of all time. I've watched almost every wrestling match he's ever had, at least the ones that are available to watch.
Me and Dad one time played WWE 2 or 2K22, and I was he was Triple H, and we chose the ladder match, and I was Shawn Michaels.
Nice.
It was
Those two
fun.
wrestled in one of my favorite matches of all time. It was at SummerSlam 2002, and it was Shawn Michaels' return match after he had been retired for almost 4 years. That was a really fun one.
What's your favorite match to watch ever?
Well, so I have a few of them. Would you believe it or would you believe it if I told you that Shawn Michaels was in my favorite matches? So, my favorite match, my second favorite match is Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25. I think that, in my opinion, is probably the best wrestling match that's ever happened anywhere ever.
What's your
But
first favorite?
my personal favorite is Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart, WrestleMania 12. It was an Iron Man match for the WWF World Heavyweight Championship. And it was the first time, spoiler alert, if you go back and watch this, I don't mean to give away the ending, but it was the first time that Shawn Michaels ever won a World Heavyweight Championship. So there's a great line from Vince McMahon, who was doing commentary for the match. He said, "The boyhood dream has come true." And Shawn Michaels is on his knees looking at the championship, and he has tears in his eyes, and it's just a great moment. And so for me, it's the nostalgia factor that makes that such a great match. And it's just a fantastic wrestling match as well. So that's my favorite one ever. WrestleMania 12 Iron Man match against Bret Hart.
My most favorite match is Hell in the Cell with Undertaker and Mankind.
Oh, that's a great one too. That's a really good one. Mick Foley, he's a nice guy. I've met him a few times. He came to my wrestling school once, and he kind of did what you're doing right now. We asked him questions, and he answered them, and he was a really nice guy, and gave us a lot of good information, a lot of good bits of wisdom for me and my students.
What is your favorite dinosaur?
My favorite dinosaur, probably like a Stegosaurus if I had to pick one. I like them because they got the cool spines on their back, and then they have the tail that has the spikes on the edge. They look like big bulldozers to me, so I really like a Stegosaurus. What's your favorite dinosaur?
Hmm. T-Rex, Spinosaurus, and Giganotosaurus.
Oh wow, I don't think I've heard of the last one. That must be a newer dinosaur that they've discovered.
Uh, yeah, Giganotosaurus was bigger, the probably the biggest carnivore ever.
Oh wow.
But
Do
the
they is that dinosaur in any Jurassic Park movies? What's your favorite food, Teddy?
hmm,
Let me guess. Is it chicken nuggets? Yeah, that's funny. That's my 7-year-old son's favorite food too. So that's why I guessed that. Maybe it's a 7-year-old thing. Everybody loves chicken nuggets when they're 7.
Great Energy wanted me to ask you about the stapler.
Yep, that's a real thing that happened. JT Energy, he put a staple gun to my head and I think he stapled like a dollar bill or a $5 bill to my head in a wrestling match we had against each other. But that may have hurt, but I got the last laugh when I beat him for the Iowa championship that night.
Did they ever get the staple out?
Yeah, I was able to pull it out after the match was over and clean it out, make sure there wasn't any infection or anything like that.
What's the craziest match have you ever been in?
Well, back in the day, myself and Seth Rollins, we wrestled each other in a no rope barbed wire match. So that's when they take the wrestling ropes off of the ring and instead they string it up with barbed wire instead of wrestling ropes. It's just barbed wire for ropes. And that was in Chicago for AAW. And that was for the AAW Heavyweight Championship. He had the title, and I was wrestling him for it. That was in 2006, November
What
2006.
happened?
And I ended up winning. I ended up beating Seth Rollins for the championship that night. And when they did awards that year for the entire city of Chicago, and there's a lot of wrestling companies in Chicago, so that means there's a lot of wrestling matches that happen in Chicago. That match against Seth Rollins, who was known as Tyler Black at the time, that match was voted the best match in all of Chicago for the year of 2006. So that was a very prestigious honor for myself at the time. I was only 20 years old when that match happened. Now I'm 36, 16 years later. But that was the craziest match I've ever been in because that barbed wire hurts a whole lot. But again, I won it. And that's a common theme. We're talking about all the matches I'm winning. I like that.
Braxton said yesterday that he would never want to be in a Texas death match. Those are because he said
No.
those are scary with all the barbed
Yeah,
wire.
that one does sound pretty scary. I don't want to do any death matches at all. Yeah, barbed wire and sometimes glass and stuff.
Do you help run SCW?
Yeah, SCW's been around for almost 20 years. But I didn't start running the company until 2012. I want to say 2011 or 2012. Um, Basically, SCW had been on hiatus for about a year, and the person who was running it didn't want to do it anymore. But a lot of people wanted SCW to come back because there's a lot of wrestling fans in the Quad Cities who really like wrestling and want to see shows. And so I said, well, I'll give it a shot. I'll try and run the company. So I took over in 2011 or 2012. I can't remember. Maybe even 2010. My memory isn't what it used to be. A lot of concussions throughout the years, but I took it over and I've been running it ever since. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of stress. You got to do a lot of different things that most people don't even think about when you're running a wrestling company. But being able to entertain the people and see how many families get to come and enjoy some quality time together, some family bonding time to see how much everybody loves SCW Pro Wrestling. It's a great reward for me, and I'm really happy that I'm able to do that for everybody.
What was your first title match?
First title match ever. That's a tough question. Like I said, I've been doing this for so long. It was probably like a tag team title match. I used to have a partner named Keith. He was actually my best friend growing up, and we both started wrestling together. He doesn't wrestle anymore. He's actually an instructor at the Iowa Police Academy. How crazy is that? but we have very different lives now. But he's still my friend to this day. But we were a tag team back in the day, and I think we challenged for the SCW tag team titles in late 2003. So that would have been the first title match I was ever in.
Who do you have at your wrestling school?
Oh, we have lots of people at my wrestling school. We started the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy in 2014. It was the summer of 2014. And Seth Rollins messaged me out of the blue. He was living in Florida while he was training at NXT before he got called up to the main roster of WWE. And he texted me, and I had actually been teaching some people how to wrestle on my own. I had a small school that I was running by myself, and I had just gotten done with my second class, or maybe I was in the middle of my second class. And he said, "Hey, when I move back to Iowa, how would you feel about running a wrestling school with me?" And I thought that was a great idea because we'd always been good friends and we had always done really good business together. And so I thought having a business partner like him would be beneficial. So I said, yeah, that sounds really cool. And then we kind of tabled the idea for a little bit while he got called up to WWE and he was doing his thing with Moxley, with Dean Ambrose, with Roman Reigns as the Shield. And then finally, when he kind of settled into that groove, he was like, "All right, it's time. Let's do this." And so we put out the information to the public, and we said, "If you want to be a wrestler, you can come train with us," not knowing what kind of reception we'd get. We didn't know what kind of feedback we'd get, but we filled up that first class within a week from students or with students from all over the country. And it just kind of grew from there. So that was our first class. And right now we are training our 26th class, I want to say. Almost 9 years later, we're coming up on our 9 year anniversary of opening the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy. And we have all of our classes filled up through the next year and a half, almost 2 years. So it's been a fun journey. We were looking to open a place where people who wanted to learn the right way, because there weren't a lot of wrestling schools in 2014, and there certainly weren't very many reputable schools in the Midwest. So we were kind of just looking to open a school in the Midwest that Midwest people could come to, but it was so in demand that now we have students from all over the world. We've trained people from Brazil, Poland, Australia, um, gosh, I don't even Scotland. I have a student from Scotland in my class right now. So it's grown into this massive thing. It's been a great way to make a living, but it's also a very rewarding job getting to help young adults live their dream and become professional wrestlers. Sometimes we get people in there who've wanted to do that their whole lives, but they've never even tried. We trained somebody who was 40 years old who had never been in a wrestling ring ever, and she said, she wanted to do this, before she got to be too old to give it a shot. And so we were able to allow her to live a lifelong dream by teaching her how to be a pro wrestler. And she was from New Zealand. She went back home and now she's wrestling all the time.
Maybe some of the wrestlers that have been at the school, Cornboy,
Yep.
Crotch.
Well, he is actually my assistant coach. Crutch is not a graduate of the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy. He started wrestling shortly after I did. So he's almost been wrestling for 20 years too.
So Cornboy,
Yep. We have what we do you
Braxton,
watch NXT?
Pink Energy.
So we have a student who graduated from Black and Brave Wrestling Academy. He's from an island in between England and France. It's called Jersey. It's Jersey Island. Not New Jersey, the state, but its own country called Jersey. Anyways, he came over here to learn how to be a pro wrestler, and then he was really, really good. So WWE signed him to a contract, and he wrestles for NXT. His name's Nathan Frazier.
Did you ever see the match of The Rock and Stone Cold?
Yeah, they've wrestled a lot of times actually. The Rock versus Stone Cold was a pretty storied rivalry in WWE. So I've seen them wrestle a number of times. But you want to know something really cool?
Hmm.
I was at WrestleMania last year when Stone Cold came out of retirement for his match against Kevin Owens. So I got to watch that match in person. That was super fun.
Ew. My dad saw that match. Well, he
That
didn't go there, but he watched it on TV.
watched it on TV. Yeah, that was actually right before I wrestled JT Energy for his Iowa championship. And so I saw a lot of parallels between what Stone Cold Steve Austin did. He was coming out of retirement after having some neck injuries, and I was coming out of retirement after having some neck injuries, and I hadn't wrestled in a singles match in about 5 years. So I was a little nervous for that. But when I watched Stone Cold do it, I said, if Stone Cold can do it, I can do it too. I'll be brave like Stone Cold Steve Austin. And that gave me some courage going into my match against JT Energy.
Well, do you have anything else that you want to say?
Well, I just think it's really cool that you're a 7 year old and you already have this really cool video podcast vlog thing that you're doing. I think you're a great interviewer, and I think you should definitely keep it up if you want to do that. Um, but as far as me, you can follow me on social media at mbrave13. I have Twitter and Instagram, and you can follow SCW Pro at SCW Pro on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. And you can follow the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy at Black and Brave on Twitter or at Black and Brave Wrestling on Instagram.
Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, Teddy. Now go get some chicken nuggets, all right?